I always felt like I always just knew things, and I felt uncomfortable because I didn't learn them. It wasn't like somebody told me something. So for example, when I used to do massage, I would massage people, but I would just feel something about them, or I would hear a question in my mind. I would see a certain move to do with the person, so I would do it. And then afterwards, the client would say, "How did you know how to do that?" And I felt uncomfortable because I didn't know. I didn't learn it in school. It was just a feeling. It was the intuition. So I asked another massage therapist who seemed very spiritual. She went to church, and I said, "Hey, I feel like God's talking to me. I feel like I'm seeing these pictures as what to do on people." And she said, "No, God doesn't speak to people in that way." And instantly I got nervous because I didn't have a background, I didn't go to church, and I didn't want to do something devilish. So I kind of moved away from it, but it kept happening. And I was very uncomfortable with it because I didn't know. So when I started following my intuition, I kept hearing God say, "Don't forget this story, it's gonna go in your book." And I laughed, I was like, I'm not a writer. I don't like writing. I'm not gonna write a book, but I kept hearing that time after time after time. So finally, I just wrote down a list and I started writing down like the names or "don't forget this story." So then one day I thought, okay, I'm just gonna start writing. And one day I wrote 3,000 words. The next day I wrote another 3,000 words. And then when I ran out of story, I looked at that list and I just went down the list and I crossed that one off and I wrote about it. And then 10 days later, here I had this book. You know, I felt like it was guided on all the stories that God led me to, and I felt like I needed to get that work out there. Because when I was teaching classes, people would say, "Where do I start? What do I do? I'm really interested in this. How can you teach me?" So I figured, well, if I had my book, I could just give it to them and they can read it on their own. So that's how I came up with the book. And I started to realize that my healing takes place through my words, also through my classes, through guiding people through meditation, and then now through my words. I realized that we needed to work on the same core things, which is belief system, identity, ego. You know, how is it that you see yourself versus how the world sees you? How you were trained to be, right? When we're younger, we think we want to be a certain way, and then that just changes over time, the way we develop. You know, we're taught to have somebody tell us what to do, and we're not taught to listen to our emotions, to listen to our intention. God is always talking to us. He's always speaking. We have to have our own discernment. So my love and passion is helping people identify what that discernment feels like in our physical being, how we hear, how we feel, how we see. The communication is all around us.